Alright guys, this is as far as we got on our lecture. And honestly, it's not that bad. It might look like we didn't get that far, but we really did, because we covered the main stuff, which was how the hypothalamus is actually nervous system that can speak endocrine system, how the pituitary system is endocrine system that can speak nervous system, and then we went ahead and covered the main hormones that are actually coming from the hypothalamus, and then the ones that are actually within the pituitary itself. So we had anterior and posterior pituitary and what they secrete, and from there we started talking about growth hormone, remember the gigantism and dwarfism and things like that, and we're entering now the thyroid gland. And again, this is one of those, is just like, gee, what does it make? Well, it makes thyroid, and that's the one that most of us realize and talk about, and is a big regulator of metabolism. And so you can be hypo, have too little, or hyper, have too much. But one of the things that people don't realize is that the thyroid actually produces something else, and that's called calcitonin. And calcitonin is there for your calcium levels. Now remember, calcium is very, very important when you have those neurotransmitters. So the action potential goes all the way down the axon to the axon terminals, and in those little bulbs at the end, that's where the neurotransmitters are. And as that action potential goes through, it opens calcium channels, which allow for those little neurotransmitters to go across in the vesicle and to open up and to release the neurotransmitter into the space in between, the synapse. So if we didn't have calcium, it would not be a good thing. We wouldn't be able to do that. And when we look at muscles, it's the same thing. You need to have calcium in order for muscles to actually go ahead and contract. So we need to go ahead and regulate the amount of calcium in our body. If we have a lot of calcium in our blood, calcitonin will actually go ahead and help the body put that calcium into bones for storage. And we usually don't think of our bones as storage for anything, but it does. It stores calcium. So if for some reason we need to have more calcium into the blood, we can actually take the bone apart and put that calcium into the bloodstream. And that way it can be used by your muscles or nerves and so forth. Okay? So if we know that the thyroid gland has to do with calcitonin, right away in your head you should be like, gee, what's the counterpart then? Oh, fabulous question. Oh, fabulous question, but not yet. Hold on. So what can go wrong? You can have hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. Simple goiters is an enlargement of your thyroid from the lack of iodine. Iodine is very, very essential in making the thyroxine, the thyroid hormone. And so you need to have that in your diet, otherwise you're not going to go ahead and make it. That's why we have iodized salt. That way we can get it into our diet. We don't need a whole bunch. We use salt a little bit excessively, well, a lot excessively, but still, it's there for you if you need it. We have something called congenital hypothyroidism, and this is just truly your body isn't making thyroid right away. It's a very easy test. They do it on all babies now. They just prick the bottom of their foot, take a blood sample, and they can go ahead and supplement thyroid right away, so they don't have to end up having mental retardation. Okay. Myxedemia is hypo. Again, this is in adults though, so this is in infants, and this is in adults. Hyper, you can actually have a goiter. This is actually seen as something called Graves' disease. It's an enlargement of your thyroid, and really wacky, it's the protrusion of your eyes. So there's more pressure in your eyes that actually start to pop out a little bit. Since it's hyper, and it does have to do with your metabolism, you're going to be very hyperactive, which is really bad because you need to sleep, and if you don't, you're having insomnia. This can lead to some major delusional aspects to hyperthyroidism. My friend actually had hyperthyroidism, and she knew she did, and she waited about 2 weeks before she went to the doctor, before her insomnia got really crazy, because she can eat a chocolate cake in one sitting and she didn't gain any weight. And so she knew all these things that she could do. She cleaned her house, she repaired stuff, she was nuts. She's just crazy, hyperactive, tons of food. And then she went to the doctor, and they went ahead and knocked out her thyroid, and they put her on thyroid medication to replace it. And of course we can have a tumor, again, pushing down on it and stimulating the thyroid to produce more. So this is a simple goiter. Doesn't look really simple. You think they should be able to just cut that right out, but there's again blood vessels and a whole bunch of things. So it's not so simple. This is what used to be called cretinism, so congenital hypothyroidism. So if you ever heard, oh, you cretin, this is what they were referring to way back when. This is your exophthalmic goiter, so you can see this eye right here is definitely bulging. In some cases, what they do is they'll actually take it sounds nasty, they shave off the eye socket, the bone, so the eye can go back in. Yeah, crazy stuff. Alright, here is our counterpart to our thyroid. It is our parathyroid, which makes parathyroid hormone. This is called PTH, parathyroid hormone. And what it does is actually goes ahead when you don't have enough calcium in your blood, it asks your bones to actually start taking bone material apart, releasing the calcium. It also tells your kidneys, hey, there's some calcium that we really need. Can you hold on to more of it? So reabsorb more. Don't secrete it out. Hold on to more of it. So we're reabsorbing. So now you can kind of see there's these overlaps between systems. We're talking about calcium, but we're also talking about the endocrine system. We're talking about your urinary system, and we're actually talking about your skeletal system. So major things that are making sure that you have this calcium, because it's very, very important. So that's our parathyroid. Remember, those are little pairs that are actually on the thyroid gland itself. So this is just a visual of everything we talked about, just how to maintain homeostasis, high blood calcium. Thyroid's going to go ahead and take calcitonin. Calcitonin's going to build up bone. Down the line, if you have low calcium, your parathyroids are going to kick in, making sure your bone actually starts falling apart. You know, that's not necessarily a good thing, but they do it in a non-destructive kind of way. But you can't have people who have very, very thin bones due to lack of calcium in their diet and therefore in their bones. And then, of course, our kidneys and intestines are going to go ahead and try to hold on to as much as we can so we can increase it. And again, we're around a set point. So both of these are considered negative feedback loops, trying to stay around a normal set point. Alright, our adrenal glands. These are the cute little ones that are on top of our kidneys. We do have adrenal medulla, and this is actually controlled by the nervous system. And then we have the adrenal cortex, and this is controlled by your anterior pituitary. This is the adrenal corticoid stimulating hormone that's coming from your pituitary that tells your adrenals to go ahead and produce the norepinephrine, epinephrine. The adrenal medulla, this is, oh my gosh, baby under car, you know, pick up car, get it out of the way. This is where that part comes in, because it's such a huge adrenaline rush, and it's your nervous system that's actually stimulating the part of your adrenals, which is just crazy. Here's our adrenaline, and now it's called epinephrine, EpiPens. We talked about that, norepinephrine. This is our flight or fight. And remember, pass out, that's in there too. So this has to be our sympathetic, okay, because remember that was your friends all sympathetic with you, you know, increased heart rates, this, that, and the other. Okay. We do have, again, our mineral, or our adrenal cortex. There's two different types of hormones. One are called mineral corticoids. The other one's glucocorticoids. And you're like, I am not going to remember this. It's really easy to remember this. Mineral. It has to do with salt. Alright? And look at there. Kidneys have to do with salt. Also has to do with water balance. So you know this one right here is going to be interacting with the kidney. Glucocorticoids. Glucose. Think glucose, carbohydrates, food, metabolism. Oh, so you're very, very easy to remember. Mineral goes with salt and water. Glucose goes with carbohydrates, proteins, fat, metabolism. This is a lovely one that goes ahead and suppresses the body's inflammatory response. These guys, especially, where did it go? Cortisol, that one there. This is known as our stress hormone, joy. So when your body is really stressed out, you're going to go ahead and suppress your immune system, which means you're going to go ahead and get sick more, and so everything kind of snowballs out of control. We have to try to make sure we can control our cortisol levels. Stress is not a good thing. Alright, we have a little movie up here if you want to go ahead and watch, again, in YouTube. And it's just, again, talking about, here's a little nervous pathway. This one's going through, oh, there's an inner neuron, remember, in the door and out the vent. This is an inner neuron in between. It's going to the adrenal medulla. This one here is being controlled by the pituitary. There is our lovely anterior pituitary secreting our hormones, and goes and secretes our glucocorticoids or our mineralocorticoids. Okay, and it's a really nice picture. It goes ahead and shows everything, how it's broken down. Addison's disease is a hyposecretion, so low hypo, of your glucocorticoids, and it's really weird because it actually causes a bronzing to the skin. That's one of the signs of it. This one's actually called Cushing's. This is hypersecretion. And you say, well, this kid gained a whole bunch of weight. And it's very interesting because he'll gain that weight. This is the same kid, by the way. He'll gain the weight in his face and trunk, but his arms and legs stay skinny. So it's very different than someone who's just obese, where they're going to have the weight distributed everywhere. Cushing's is very, very characteristic of the head and the trunk being enlarged. Okay. Pancreas, we have to love the pancreas. I wonder how many more minutes I have before this thing shuts off on me. Alright, I'll see how far I can get before all of a sudden it ends. Alright, so back to pancreas. Sorry. It's a little fish-shaped organ. I still think it looks like Odie from Garfield's ear. We do have exocrine. This is part of our digestive system, so if you remember, it's going to go ahead and add alkaline, so it's not very acidic when it's going into the small intestine. We're actually going to go ahead and have pancreatic amylase, because remember, the amylase for your mouth got destroyed in your stomach. So that's our exocrine version. And then we have endocrine, and this is from the islets of Langerhans. Yeah, you have to say it that way because you'll remember it better. And it produces two different hormones, and the one that we always hear about is insulin. So when you have sugar, glucose, in your blood after a meal, you have insulin that goes ahead and removes it from your blood and puts it into cells, muscle cells, liver cells, for storage. And it can actually go ahead and put into longer term storage in the form of glycogen, and even way down the line it can even be made into adipose or fat. But insulin is there to make sure that that level is not too high. Now, say you haven't eaten anything all day long and you have all this stuff stored, you have to take it out of storage. And so that's where glucagon comes up. Glucagon is the counterpart to insulin. Insulin is taking it from the blood and into storage, which means glucagon is going to take it out of storage when the blood glucose levels is low and put it into the blood. So you have to have both of them to go ahead and be balanced off. So insulin, glucose from blood into storage, glucagon, storage of glucose, maybe in glycogen form, is broken down and then put back into the blood so it can be used as an energy source. Same thing I just did here, exactly the same. Nice little handy dandy video if you like to watch it. And it's, again, just a negative feedback loop where all this lovely stuff is. So you can kind of walk through that one. Diabetes is what we always think about when it comes to pancreas, that or pancreatic cancer that we've talked about before. But there's a type 1 and a type 2. It used to be called childhood. It's not anymore. It's just one is more of a genetic receptor kind of a problem, and the other one is a true insulin problem. But about 20 million people have it, give or take. You're going to have frequent urination, unusual hunger, thirst, unexplained changes in weight, blurred vision. It takes a really long time for sores to heal, and really just fatigued. Long-term effects can be devastating. Loss of limbs, blindness, nerve deterioration, kidney and cardiovascular disease. Again, you're affecting the entire system. If that's something that's in your blood, you know that you're affecting everybody. The kidney's trying to balance it off, the heart's trying to balance things off, and it just becomes overwhelming. So type 1 is our early onset. Type 2 is usually what they considered adult onset. This is more common. It tends to be in the obese, sedentary type of lifestyle. Cells do not respond to the insulin, so insulin is there, but they're not responding to it. Usually diet and exercise are very important in controlling this one.